Wade and Steve Nessel from Yamaha are hunting the Wendlandt Ranch. Now, Steve has already knocked down a solid 8-point. So let's see if Wade has any luck as he heads to a platform stand for the afternoon.
Temperatures are a little bit above average. I'm gonna say it's probably in the upper 80s right now, probably should be in the mid 70s. Lows in the evenings right now are only getting down into the upper 60s, low 70s. But the deer activity, I mean, they're wanting to really start separating themselves, establish dominance. You're seeing a few scrapes, a few rubs here and there. But, you know, it's pretty warm. So what that means to me is we're gonna be setting up on a little food plot alongside a ridge high up in a tree stand. I think the deer will probably start moving as that sun gets a little bit lower, gets a little cooler. They'll filter down off this ridge that you can see off here to the right. We're gonna be sitting on a small food plot, and we've got just enough rain recently that it's come up real well. And these deer are gonna kind of mill around in there, hopefully in that last hour, hour and a half of the day. But we're gonna get in there about 2 hours before they start showing up, get settled in, get, you know, climbed up, and just kind of see what happens. There's several good deer showing up on scouting cameras up here, and you know, we'll just see if one of them will get into range. We got about 400 yards from where we parked the Viking to go, so it's time to put on the safety harness and backpack and grab that TC and go to hunting. Inch deer rubbing a tree. Come to find out it was a squirrel. Now we're just gonna keep sitting here letting this sun get a little bit lower. I mean, we probably still have almost 2 hours until we lose, you know, shooting line. So it's still early, but you can tell what's going on. Shadows are getting longer. It's starting to cool off just a few degrees. That'll get those deer up on their feet. Hopefully they'll come right down this little funnel where I'm banking on them moving by. We'll see what goes on. So we've got this great platform stand, probably 20, 25 feet up in the air. It overlooks a series of oak patches. It's a great ridge. It's a super bedding area. The deer come off the top of this ridge. They funnel down into this open area where there's a creek bottom. I mean, there's just 1,000,001 reasons why a deer would want to call this area home. And when you look at the location of this tree and where you feel like the prevailing wind would be, I mean, it makes all the sense in the world to be a perfect rifle hunting scenario. You know, you can see long distances, you got plenty of angles, a great base to put shooting sticks up on. And the wind, you know, historically what it does, you know, you understand it, and the sun's gonna set to the left. And I mean, it's just, I mean, 1,000,001 reasons in my opinion why this is a perfect stand, but it's not panning out. You know, I'm sitting in this tree and we're seeing does, and I'm watching all these deer move around in this area. But in my mind, I'm also playing out another scenario. I'm looking out to the edge of this broomweed field, and I'm thinking the entire time, that would be a great spot to either build a ground blind or bring a pop-up in, because I could actually still see 2 of the oak patches that we're sitting over right now in this tree, but I can also see down towards the creek flat. You know, after talking about it and discussing it, that was kind of the plan. We decided to basically build a big pop-up blind and put it on this flat right in the shadows where we had multiple options, and then just give it a rest. You know, brush it all in and then just leave it alone for a while. You've seen this here before. The ridge runs this way, the creek runs that way. All the fields are out here in front of us, and we've been climbing 20, 25 feet up in a tree stand that just overlooks a series of 3 oak patches, and we're seeing deer every time. But we're not seeing the same deer we're seeing on scouting camera. The wind feels right. Everything to me looks right. We came over here a couple days ago. We built a pop-up, and this is a monstrous pop-up. This is Cabela's 6-sided pop-up, and this is a gigantic pop-up blind. We brushed it all in. We've got it in the shade. We're actually going out farther to the end of these oak patches where we can see out into these big fields over here towards the creek. And I made another change. I put on my lucky hat. This is my oldest Cabela's visor camouflage hat. And so we're gonna see if it comes through for us tonight, because on the scouting camera, there's a multitude of shooters. We just hadn't seen them so far.
You know, when things come together, they just come together. You can sit for hours and days and months and, you know, for some people years at a time, and just the plan never comes together. You never see that deer you're looking for. And in this case, the parade kind of started. Some does came out and a small buck or two came out, and they're just milling around this oat patch. And off to the left, literally within feet of the tree that we had been sitting in, this big old boy comes stepping out.
Brush line. That deer's not 30 yards from where we've been sitting in that tree. Just come out almost right below it. Giant deer. He's right on the edge of that brush. There's no way I can shoot him. He's looking around. He's looking back towards that pond. Something's gonna explode.
The first thing that popped in my mind when I saw that deer step out was, we have sat in that tree for several days. Where's, you know, I mean, gosh, why is he there? Well, then it was like, man, that's a big deer. And he starts milling around out in the field, kind of looking out in the field and looking in the shadows. He's turning around. He's just like a big deer you would expect a bigger deer to do. He'd come out on that brush line and look around, and then all of a sudden he just kind of turns and starts walking his way up into the oat patch, and just easing along, picking up a bite here and there. And I had glassed him and ranged him, and now it's time to grab the rifle, because there wasn't a doubt in my mind I was a shooter. And he's about to go over the berm that leads to the next oat patch. And I'm thinking, well, if he goes at the right trail, I might be able to get a shot there. But if he goes to that next oat patch, I'm not gonna be able to see him. That berm's pretty tall. But then he turns and he starts walking back down the closer side to the oat patch. But once again, I'm blocked.
You see the big hole towards our tree stand where the dead brush is laid down. Stay with him right there, okay? You got him. Smoked him. Smoked him. I mean, that big old sucker, we have been sitting in this field for some time. We've been sitting in this field, we've been working this big tree stand over here, watching the sun go down, and could not get on a good deer, and built this pop-up blind over here. Really set it up perfect so we'd have a better spot to be able to get in here and hunt. And sorry. And I mean, it couldn't work perfect. The wind gotten better in our favor. We got in here, got set up. That buck literally came out and postured himself underneath that tree right there where we've been sitting at. And for whatever reason, I guess it's the wind or swirling or something, when we were getting in that tree stand, we just weren't seeing any bucks, occasional doe. This deer came in and he worked along here and he got all the way up into the field and kind of disappeared. And then he came back down this edge here. And I had to grunt and bleed at him to get him to stop. But I mean, he was right in the perfect area and we smoked that sucker. I mean, what a buck. He's got big, long tines. He's a mainframe 10 with kickers. I got a chance to look at that deer far longer than I would have liked to, because he was blocked so many times. Whew. The old compass strikes right there, buddy. Wow. You talk about strategy. This one worked to our favor right here to reset the way we were. I mean, and I love that blind, or that tree stand we were setting up in over there. It's freaking awesome. But I could see deer out here, and something just wasn't right in comparison to what else we were seeing. And so we come down here and built this big thing and set it up perfect, brushed it all in. You can see the same stuff right here that's growing out. Here's what we threw all over it. Let it rest for a couple days, waited till that big wind. And that buck, I mean, if he didn't come out 20 or 30 yards from where I sit, and he came out 20 or 30 yards from where we'd been and milled around, and we got him. You know how I know we got him? Because we can see him out there in that field. This is an awesome blind right here. All right, let's go up here and get him recovered. This is warm weather hunting at its finest right here. You talk about character. Look at this. I mean, that main beam, it almost wraps all the way around. You can see I've got a kicker off this G2, kicker off that 3, kicker off that brow tine. I mean, an old
bruiser of a warhorse of a buck. There's our stand that we've been setting in on these other days, and you've seen everything up and down through here. And he came in, he worked all the way around. He was going back down there, maybe to go down to that creek down there, and he was moving at a pretty good clip when I stopped him. But I mean, I know what the Compass is gonna do. I shot this thing, it's just dead on, shooting tacks straight out of the box, it's shooting incredible groups and everything. I'm shooting a 30-06 right there, which is, you know, arguably one of America's top 3 deer cartridge. And you saw the result. I mean, when I hit him, you could see the dust flying after that deer went down. I mean, that's what it's all about. That's a plan coming together for perfection right there.